Hello, welcome everyone to Zentangle Explore. I am so excited to draw with you today, whether you are here live or on the replay anywhere in the world. So all you will need, my name is Esther Piszczek. I'm a certified Zentangle teacher, and this is an opportunity to slow down and explore in your own way and breathe one Zentangle pattern for quite a while. So you will need a couple of little pieces of paper that you can hold in the palm of your hand. I have a 01 Micron here. I also have a Sharpie felt tip pen here, but whatever pen you have, even if it's just like a ballpoint off of your desk and a piece of copy paper, totally fine. You are welcome to explore with me. So we are going to start out with a brief meditation, and I always like to slow down and breathe so that when I get to my page, I can draw really slow lines because that is where the magic happens. All right, so get nice and comfortable in your seat. You can close your eyes if you like. I'm going to close mine. Oh, and we're just going to breathe. Just bring yourself, all of your attention, all of your focus right here into this very moment that you are in, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are in space and time. And feel all of yourself, all of your parts, all of your beingness right here as you breathe. Noticing the inhale. It's a little stop at the top as the breath turns around. Noticing the release of the exhale, perhaps where you can feel it in your body. Wherever it's showing up for you is perfect. And a little stop at the bottom. Another little opportunity to rest, to notice, to become still. Perhaps you can feel your feet on the floor or the bed or the couch or the ground, wherever you are. Whatever parts of you are resting on furniture, on foundations, on the earth, just feel that gentle connection. Perhaps notice the little, tiny little gentle pull of gravity keeps us from floating around in the clouds. And maybe you can allow yourself to rest even more fully, more deeply, allowing gravity to hold you, allowing the earth to hold you, your structure that surrounds you to hold you. Ease the tension if there's any in your body. Trusting that connection, trusting that you will be held, that you are held. Trusting that the next breath you take, there will be oxygen available to you. And that your body knows how to release the carbon dioxide and feed it to the plants. Just gently breathing, relaxing, allowing yourself to be exactly as you are. When you're ready, let's take a big inhale together. And a nice sighing exhale, making sound if you choose. Ah. So nourishing to hear sound, just for the sake of making sound. Big inhale. Nice releasing exhale. Oh. Gentle vibration for your body, your cells, your organs. And one last big inhale together. And exhaling. Oh. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, knowing that whatever we create together will be perfect just as it is. Okay, let's draw really slow, really fun lines. All right, so I'm going to change my camera. Okay, so I have a couple of small pieces of paper here that it's watercolor, so I can add color or watercolor if I want. It's a little bit stiffer than just copy paper, but if you just have copy paper or an envelope, perfect. And then I've got a Sharpie felt tip and I've got a 01, but whatever you have to draw with will be absolutely fantastic. All right, so we are going to explore. This class is all about exploring in your way, not my way. So I'm going to teach you this pattern, this Zentangle pattern named Toku, T-O-K-U by Julie Isaac, who's a CZT. And it's very, very simple. And I'm just going to start in the middle of my page here. You can start at the edge if you like, but I'm going to start right in the middle of my page. I'm going to draw really slow lines. And we're going to draw what might look like a triangle or a cheese wedge, or just a wedge in general. So in slow drawing and Zentangle Explore, we look at the components of the pattern. This next shape is just a flat, but a flat piece that has some body to it. And the creator of this, Julie Isaac, she formed this from seeing a rock formation all piled up and put together in an arch. And so if we draw these wedges with the wider part on the outside and the thinner part on the inside, we can begin to form the wedge and the flat pieces, this little arch. Now, if I want this to come straight, I'm just going to reverse my, oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to do this. But I can reverse my little shapes here so I can control where this is going. And I can make this go in an arch, or I can say I can change this direction just by changing the direction of my shapes. Now, of course, this is Zentangle Explore, which means that we're exploring this pattern. So you have a what if question. What if I make the flats much longer than these wedge pieces? What if I put a really giant wedge in here? What if I just pile up the wedges and not use any flats? What if I just pile up the flats? What if they're not wedges and flats at all? What if they're rectangles and squares and circles and ovals and egg shapes? What if they actually touch each other and pile up like a rock cairn? This class is an opportunity to explore whatever what if questions you want to explore in your way. What if your flats get thicker? What if you have pointy edges as opposed to rounded edges on your wedges? What if you have pointy edges on your flats? What I love about this class is there's no wrong way to explore. An exploration is an opportunity. It's like a visual brainstorm in the very best of ways, meaning that every idea, every single creative impulse is welcomed. Nothing is a bad idea. And every idea that comes to you, that you're inspired to, or your what if question comes, every idea is worth pursuing. Sometimes I get into a bit of a a bit of a skirmish with my inspiration. And it says, do this. And my brain will say, that won't work. My inspiration comes back and says, try it anyway. My brain says, why bother? It's not going to work. My inspiration will say, what if it does? Keep going. And then I try it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought that would work. It's amazing. Turn your tile whenever you'd like. You can start building these in different directions. I love exploring simple patterns because you're not tied up in the way fours and Ys and all these complicated steps. You really can give your body, your mind some rest in the drawing because the shapes are so simple and so intuitive that your decisions that you're making become very simple and very easy to navigate. So we're drawing really slowly. Sometimes I get very excited about my what if questions, and then I start speeding up. And it's okay if that happens. It's also really lovely to notice when that happens and to say, oh, there's no rush. This is a slow drawing exploration class. I have permission to go as slowly as possible, snail slow. I can pretend I am a drawing snail, going so slowly. I'm just enjoying watching the ink flow from your pen onto the page. And because it's an exploration class, because it's a visual brainstorm, judgment is not welcome here. And if judgment pops into your experience, then you are welcome to say, hello, judgment. I see you. I recognize you from other parts of my life. But this is a time for you to rest. This is a time for you to witness what shows up on the page without feeling the need to comment. To say, oh, that's interesting. And nothing more needs to be said. Because in an exploration, everything is brand new, and therefore everything is interesting. And interesting is neither good nor bad. It's just something new. So I drew this pattern in a class that I taught on Wednesday night. And I love including simple organic patterns that can kind of fit anywhere. You're drawing a Zentangle tile composition. We usually draw with 3, 4, 5 different patterns, and they're all woven together, placed in ways that make an interesting composition. But because there's so many patterns, I don't have the opportunity to really just explore just one pattern, although I could do that and make it a monotangle. So I love that this class is an opportunity to take one of those patterns and really play with it without worrying about what the composition is or what it will be, because as an exploration, the composition is just going to appear. And however it appears is going to be lovely. Another thing I love about drawing patterns is kind of little universes unto themselves. If I was drawing a landscape, then there'd be all of these ways to judge whether or not are the trees in the right direction? Are there enough leaves? Is the light shining in a realistic way? Do the clouds look puffy enough? Is there enough depth? Are there enough shadows and light areas? So many things to judge, and judging against what the eye sees. Now, of course, the eye is seeing these patterns, and judging is always, always ready to judge. But these patterns are very simple, and it's much easier to say, well, I'm drawing this pattern my way. It doesn't have to look like Rembrandt's pattern. It doesn't have to look like Van Gogh's pattern. It can just be my pattern right now. Because Rembrandt and Van Gogh, no matter how brilliant they are and were when they were here painting for all of us, they could never, ever, ever draw the line that you are drawing right now in exactly the way that you are drawing it, because they're not you. And that is truly amazing. So you can start a new composition whenever you'd like. You can start on a new piece of paper, or you can continue building on this one just to see what happens. I'm really loving this pattern. It's so super fun. And I haven't even changed the shapes yet, except to bend them a little bit. But you can change them. You can bend your lines. You can really, it's an exploration. You can do whatever you want. You can turn this into something that doesn't use wedges or flats at all. And you are doing it perfectly. And there's so many ways to play with a pattern that doesn't even require changing the elements as far as the shapes. So you don't have to make it into an oval or an egg or a rectangle or a square or an octagon or a pentagon or whatever shapes you might come up with to play with. You can just explore using line width. We don't have a lot of black, and we don't really have any black except for the lines here. So you can play with shape, coloring in these in. Here, I'll play a little bit here, rounding some of these corners, adding some weighting to these lines. You could play with coloring these in black, white, or if you wanted to add actual color, you can add patterns. You could add orbs in any of these. So these inside shapes are also an opportunity. They're like a little grid. So creating a little grid. They're also an opportunity to play with more patterns embedded in patterns, which is even more fun. And I love taking a tangle and putting it inside the tangle. So I'm gonna show you that, but I'm gonna get to a different page here to do it. All right. All right, new page, patterns inside of patterns. So play with our, actually I'm gonna go with a larger pen. So we start with our Toku pattern. So slowly. Slow down, Esther. Breathe. Just watching the ink. Say, wow, there's no ink, and then there's ink. The pen is really a miraculous thing. I can hold this instrument in my hand. It has such a fine, beautiful line, and I can have it do whatever I want it to do. It doesn't talk back to me. Well, except when the pen tip is a little overused or overworn and the ink is running low, then it talks back to me. But for the most part, my pen does not talk back to me. And sometimes it has its ideas of its own that are very fun to explore. And I find extremely interesting when I'm not judging them and throwing a fit. I don't throw as many fits anymore, but sometimes I do. I have to take a breath, calm down, say it's ink on a page. Nothing has gone wrong. And as I'm having that thought, I'm drawing two wedges next to each other, and that was not my intent, but that is where my pen went. So that is what happened. And because it's an exploration, I can say, all right, awesome. It doesn't really matter what happens here because I'm just finding out new things. I'm discovering and discovering. If we just judge all the time, we discover nothing new. We just discover what we've already discovered a million times before because we're not allowing ourselves to embrace something that might feel a little uncomfortable, that might not be exactly what we wanted it to be. We can judge that and say, well, this is wrong, this is bad. Or we can say, oh, I didn't even know but that was possible. Isn't that super fun? All right, so we have very large toku here. I'm just going to finish this off on the other side. And I haven't even put I still have space between my shapes. You can do all kinds of things if you take the space out of the shapes. Alrighty. So now, because I have these spaces in these shapes, I can play around with what part of this pattern I see when I'm drawing inside the shapes. And remember, this is an exploration. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know if it's going to read properly. I don't know if my eye is going to like it. And it actually doesn't matter because we're learning new things. And to learn new things, you have to take risks. That, oh my gosh, you might not like the thing that you're learning. We don't always like what we learn. Everything we learn is helpful. because it allows us to learn something else that's new and different. Imagine if the explorers who got out in their ships just said, London is enough. We don't need to know what else is out there in the big wide world. We're just going to stay here on this island and breathe the smog. But I'm glad they didn't do that. Even though I'm not fond of what they did when they got here, I can be grateful that I have the ability to live here. Just a simple exploration of shapes, breathing, allowing what shows up to be exactly what needs to show up. So you can really take this idea of two shapes. Two shapes and have them play with each other. So if you're playing with a circle and a square, or a square and a rectangle, or a rectangle and a triangle, or a flat and a wedge, when you take those two pieces and play with them, they create a pattern just because you have two things that are the same shape, relatively the same size. And you start putting them together, then it's going to create a pattern all by itself. You can play around with filling in the shapes, adding color, or filling in the shape behind. So we've got three different things going on. At least I have three different things going on my tile right now. I have the large Toku, which I turned into kind of a grid. Then I have the smaller Toku that's weaving its way through that grid. And then I have actually maybe four things. And then I have the negative space. So I have the negative space both inside the grid, surrounding my small Toku, and then outside the grid, surrounding my large Toku. And any of those spaces are up for fill or pattern. And so here I've taken a very simple pattern Toku with flats and wedges, or whatever shapes you want to use, and then created all of these opportunities for fill and pattern variation and color variation. And I would suggest that if you wanted to, you could take your tile here I could take this tile and I could photocopy it. And then I could fill it in, and I could probably find easily 10 different ways to fill it with different color combinations, different pattern combinations. Allowing yourself to breathe. Just assigning a value. I've been playing around with this idea recently. I tend to do so many things throughout the day. At the end of the day, I look at the list of things that has to be done the next day and I think, oh my God, how am I going to get all of those things done too? And just feel tired. And so I've been playing with visually representing my day at the end of the day by drawing myself. I depict myself as I could do a little doodle girl if I wanted to, or anything I wanted, a color, shape. But I've been using a heart in the center. And then thinking about all the things I did during the day. Who did I talk to? I use a little conversation bubble for that, put their name in there. Who did I email? What project did I complete? Did I exercise or move in any way? How's that depicted? Did I do any breathing or meditation? Did I do anything creatively? And then I draw lines from me to all of those things. And it's really helping me to say, oh my gosh, I'm already doing a lot. And to appreciate and to celebrate what's getting done instead of focusing, not appreciating it, not noticing it, crossing it off the list, and then getting overwhelmed by the next thing that has to get done. Super stressful, not pleasing, not helpful. And then my next layer that I thought about doing is taking highlighters. And I love like using creativity as a helpful tool for navigating our lives. Because being creative is so freeing and helpful and calming. And I can use it to actually create more calm in my life by appreciating all the things that I'm doing and not just racing on to the next thing. It becomes even more helpful. So the next layer will be to take highlighters and to assign meaning to those colors by saying, where are the places that I connected deeply in some way with myself or with another person, with a pet, with nature? Where are the places that maybe I felt a little bit of an energy drain because I didn't want to be doing that thing, or the interaction wasn't what I expected, or it brought up some old thing that I didn't realize was an issue but still is an issue? Or maybe I wasn't very kind to myself, and so I was creating my own draining my own energy by judging myself, by saying not nice things to myself. And so then using those colors to fill in the little shapes. So that I can get a visual idea of where am I spending my energy and how was my day, and where can I bring more joy, more laughter, more ease into what I'm doing? And say, oh, I really love doing these things. Well, how can I do more of those things? Because when it comes down to it, we are all the masters of our own universe. Yes, other things happen, other people interact with us, stuff happens globally, all kinds of things are happening that we can't control. When we focus, and our focus is so important, we focus on what we can't control, we miss all the things we can control. You start to realize the number of things that you can control in your life. It is mind blowing. Control our breathing, control our thoughts, we control how we spend our time, whether or not we're consumed with worry or judging other people, judging ourselves, or if we're spending time breathing deeply at stop signs, stoplights, whether we're telling ourselves that we're going to get there perfectly on time, no matter what our brains are telling us about how the time works. I'm so glad you guys came to draw with me because I am super loving this really fun exploration. I feel like I could continue to explore this for a really long time, days and days on end, maybe through the entire Thanksgiving week next week in the US. Maybe through that entire period, I could just draw this pattern and see what happens. Drawing just reveals possibilities. Say, wow, I didn't know that I could do that. It's really, truly amazing with a pen. What we can do with a pen. I really love, and I may have talked about this before, but I really love the book Harold and the Purple Crayon. It's a children's story about Harold who gets up at night. He has a purple crayon, and then he draws all of his adventures. He wants to see the moon, he draws the moon. He draws himself a picnic. He draws a tree, draws a mountain, until he draws himself back into his bed. And that's what it's like to have a pen, to have your breath, to be able to use your drawing as intentional space for you to be creative, to relax that inner critic, to say, whatever happens right now, it's good. I had a Zentangle student who eventually became a CZT, a certified Zentangle teacher. She loved it so much. And she used to say before she came to class, I know that whatever happens, this is the one place in my life where I know that whatever happens, it's going to be okay. And when we practice that, other parts of our life become easier. At least that's been my experience with this practice. And it's just so easy to pick up a pen and draw some lines and breathe. And to tell yourself, this is an exploration. Whatever shows up on the page is actually perfect just as it is. Simply because it is yours and nobody else. And Van Gogh, all the wonderful, beautiful, brilliant, genius painters or pattern drawers in the world, not be able to do it just like you. I worked at a bookstore when I lived in Boston, and there was another artist there who was working at the bookstore, and he was able to do these just gorgeous characters and faces and oh my gosh, things that I could never even imagine being able to draw like that. And I put together this sign. I was an event coordinator and I did a sign for an event that we were having. And I just had my swirls, and this was well before Zentangle, well before I started drawing like this. I just had my, swirls and whatever patterns that I was doing at the time. And I thought it looked so like fourth grade and juvenile. And he looked at it and went, oh my gosh, I could never draw like that. And I thought that he was kidding for quite a while. And then I realized that he was right because that's not his style of drawing. It's not him, it was me. And so, no matter how great I thought he was, he thought I was really great because I was doing something that he couldn't do. And he was doing something I couldn't do. And isn't that fantastic? Because otherwise, those things wouldn't exist if we weren't doing what was coming easily to us. If we were just trying to be somebody else, we would never discover what it is that we can do. It's so easy when people compliment us on something that we do to say, "Oh, that's not. It's only this, or it's very easy, or it's this. It's not really worth anything because it comes easily to me." When in fact, it's worth so much more because it becomes easily to you. So, what are the things that come easily to you? It's usually something that, at least for me, something that I did as a child. Just slowing down and breathing. Allowing the shapes to talk to you, allowing your pen to freely do whatever it's doing. That's what I also love about drawing on small pieces of paper. You don't have to hold them so precious. also love about this is that I never know where I'm going to end up. It's so fun. Start with a simple idea of drawing